Hi, I'm Sean Edwards. I'm a visual artist based in Cardiff, and this exhibition is Undo Things Done. So the exhibition Undo Things Done started in 2019 with a body of work made for the Wales in Venice exhibition and shown at a deconsecrated church in Venice. The installation itself is composed of a number of different pieces of works, but they all come from a single starting point, which is looking at kind of an autobiographical way of beginning to make work, thinking about the place where I came from, both geographically, but also kind of socio-politically, and all the kind of different elements of that. Something that I was striving for in the work was attempting to find a way of expressing an idea of how I might find a way of communicating using something that could be considered a working class voice from within a visual language. We often talk about the working class voice with regards to theatre, literature, film, television, but what might that look like was one of the things that I wanted to try and find in this exhibition. So some of the work that's in the exhibition uses and mines archival imagery, some that's my personal kind of family collection, other things that have come from wider histories, newspaper imagery and things like that. The work in parallel with the past, which is behind me here, which was a large sculptural installation in Venice, but was sadly damaged in the floods in November and has been remade into a collaged photographic work here. But that is made from various fragments of found personal kind of photographs and imagery, pieces from newspapers, but finding a way of bringing these things together through a fragmentary approach that maybe begins to speak about how we construct memories or how we kind of put things back together and how we build potential futures in that way. And some of the other work is maybe kind of slightly, there's work that's kind of quite personal, and you see myself and my father and my mother inside the work. Other pieces talk to this wider kind of community. So the Welsh whole cloth quilts that are made in the exhibition that were produced in collaboration with two quilt makers, Samantha Jones and Karen Coxedge, and they speak to kind of a wider ideas around, they still touch upon the politics and the patterns that repeat across those quilts, come from the mastheads of two working class newspapers, the Sun and the Daily Mirror, and I've used the lettering and the kind of formal abstractation of that to create these new quilting patterns that are based on quilts from the St Fagans Museum. So they talk to the history of Welsh whole cloth quilting, but bring it alongside kind of contemporary political issues. So across the Senedd floor has been pasted artist bookwork, which in Venice was actually a book that people were able to flick through and navigate through in that way. But due to COVID restrictions and the handling of the book, I've torn the pages, the 700 pages out of that book and scattered and pasted them across the floor. The book's called Llanedyn, and it's a series of photographs from the council estate on the outskirts of Cardiff where I grew up. And really it's a journey moving through that space, but the photographs come from different points in time. So you move geographically, but you also move chronologically through this different location. I was quite interested in making an installation here about what scattering this work through this space means. And reading Aneurin Bevan's book recently for another project that I was looking at as part of the beginning of that book, where he talks about moving from the working class communities of Tredegar and what it means to step through the Houses of Parliament, coming from that place with that voice. And so there's something quite interesting when I began to paste this work down about bringing this location, bringing those politics and from this estate and bringing them into the Senedd for people to step upon and walk across. So I mean, it means everything to be able to, this exhibition has been to 4 venues now. This is the final place. So ending this body of work, this show here that talks about the things that it does talk about, and bringing it to this building with all of its politics and its relative contemporary history, but its history nonetheless, and its potential future. It means a lot to kind of really be be a part of that and have this as kind of the reason, you know, when people come back to this space, to kind of uncover the work in this way, and for it to maybe open up things to think about in relation to Wales and its kind of political kind of position moving forward. I mean, I guess, you know, my hope is when people come to the exhibition, they get to maybe hear some stories that aren't necessarily always told within visual arts exhibitions. The voices that we often hear and the stories that we hear from people aren't necessarily the ones that are the voices that I'm attempting to give through in this piece. So hearing my mother's story and Refrain, the play, and her tales of moving from Northern Ireland to Wales. And also kind of the more abstract stories that are embedded into the quilts and their history. You know, hopefully people will be able to see themselves or people they know in the work and kind of feel that kind of closeness